Why did this American tourist defy the Queen's Guard? You won't believe her fate. Welcome to our channel, where every story ignites adventure. Today, we're diving into a jaw-dropping tale at Buckingham Palace that'll leave you speechless. Meet Karen Mitchell, a 45-year-old American tourist who thought she owned the world. With her designer purse and unshakable entitlement, she stormed through London, demanding the perfect photo. But when she ducked under a rope barrier just 20 feet from the Queen's Guard, all hell broke loose. "They'll walk around me," she scoffed, snapping a selfie in their marching path. Spoiler, they didn't. Picture this. The guards, led by Sergeant David Thompson, close in, boots thundering 10 feet away. Karen doesn't budge. Then, bam! A precise nudge sends her sprawling 8 feet back, sunglasses flying, phone cracking. The crowd erupts, cameras flashing, as #GuardKaren trends with 50 million views. Her meltdown, screaming, "I'm an American," becomes a global meme fest, tearing her vacation and reputation apart. But here's the twist you won't see coming. Karen, the ultimate Karen, faces a choice. Will she double down or rewrite her story? Guided by her teenage daughter Sophie, she returns to the palace, 25 feet from her shame, and does something unthinkable, a humble bow that silences the haters. Was it enough to redeem her? Can one gesture erase a viral nightmare? Drop a comment. Where are you watching from, and what's your take? Subscribe and hit the bell, because tomorrow's story is just as wild. Let's jump in. Karen Mitchell, a 45-year-old American with a knack for commanding attention, had always believed the world spun just for her. Her sharp blonde bob, perfectly styled, and her designer purse, slung confidently over her shoulder, screamed self-assuredness. This summer, she'd dragged her family, husband Tom and 16-year-old daughter Sophie, on a lavish vacation to London, a city she was certain would bow to her expectations. "I paid top dollar for this trip," she declared, her voice cutting through the morning bustle of their upscale hotel lobby. "And I'm getting every penny's worth." Tom, a mild-mannered man weathered by 20 years of Karen's demands, nodded absently, clutching their high-end camera like a lifeline. Sophie, meanwhile, trailed behind, her eyes glued to her phone, earbuds in, pretending she belonged to another family entirely. The London air was crisp, the streets alive with tourists, as the Mitchells made their way to Buckingham Palace. Karen had seen the changing of the guard on TV, those men in funny hats, as she called them, who stood like statues for the cameras. To her, they were just part of the show, a backdrop for her perfect Instagram post. "Sophie, put that phone down," Karen snapped, striding ahead. "You're missing history." Sophie rolled her eyes. "Mom, can you not make a scene today? These are real guards, not Disney characters." Karen scoffed, brushing off her daughter's plea. "I know exactly who they are, Sophie. Glorified props for tourists like us." At the palace, a sea of visitors buzzed around the iconic gates, about 20 feet beyond a rope barrier. Karen, undeterred, pushed through the crowd, her elbows sharp and unapologetic. "Excuse me, VIP coming through," she announced, her voice dripping with entitlement. Tom offered weak smiles to the glaring tourists she'd shoved aside, while Sophie pulled her hoodie tighter, wishing she could vanish. When they reached the front, Karen's face fell. The rope barrier blocked her view, keeping her too far for the flawless photo she'd envisioned. "This is ridiculous," she muttered, scanning the crowd for someone to blame. "Tom, how am I supposed to get a decent shot from here?" "It's like 25 feet away." Tom hesitated, his voice low. "Karen, maybe there are rules." She cut him off, her eyes narrowing. "Rules are for people who don't know how to get what they want." Spotting a young royal staffer nearby, Karen marched over, her heels clicking with purpose. "Excuse me," she said, interrupting the staffer mid-sentence with another tourist. "We need to cross this rope for better photos. We flew all the way from America." The stage was set, and Karen, oblivious to the consequences, was about to step into a moment that would change everything. The London sun glinted off Buckingham Palace's gates, but Karen Mitchell's focus was razor-sharp on one thing: the perfect photo. Having bulldozed her way to the front of the tourist throng, as described earlier, she now stood fuming at the rope barrier, a mere 20 feet from the action. To her, this was an insult, a personal slight against her status as a paying American tourist. "This won't do, Tom," she snapped, her voice slicing through the crowd's murmur. "How am I supposed to post anything worthwhile from here?" Tom, ever the peacemaker, shifted uncomfortably, his camera dangling. "Karen, maybe we should just—" But Karen was already moving, her entitlement a force of nature. Transitioning from indignation to action, Karen spotted a gap in the barrier, a narrow invitation to her goal. Without a second thought, she ducked under the rope, ignoring the gasps of nearby tourists. Logic, it seemed, had no hold on her. Karen's worldview was simple. Rules were for others, not for someone who'd shelled out thousands for this trip. Why should she, a self-proclaimed VIP, be confined like the masses? Her decision wasn't just reckless, it was a deliberate defiance of the palace's strict protocol, a protocol rooted in centuries of tradition. She positioned herself squarely in the marching path of the Queen's Guard, oblivious to the gravity of her trespass. "Mom, get back!" Sophie's voice cracked with urgency, her phone forgotten as she watched her mother's audacity unfold. The royal staffer, a young woman named Emma, called out, "Ma'am, return behind the barrier immediately!" Her tone was firm, yet Karen waved her off, as if swatting a fly. "They can walk around me," she declared, framing her selfie with the palace's grandeur behind her. Tom's face paled, his voice trembling. "Karen, you're in their way." But Karen's hubris was unshakable, her phone raised like a shield against reason. Analyzing her actions, Karen's behavior reveals a dangerous blend of ignorance and arrogance. She underestimated the guards' duty, assuming they were mere performers for her amusement. This miscalculation set the stage for a collision, literal and figurative. As the rhythmic thud of boots echoed closer, about 15 feet away, the crowd's murmur grew tense. Tourists craned their necks, sensing drama. Karen, still absorbed in her photo, was a lone figure in a sea of red uniforms approaching with unrelenting precision. The guards, led by Sergeant David Thompson, were no props. They were soldiers, bound by protocol to maintain formation at all costs. With each step, the stakes heightened. Would Karen move? Would the guards yield? The answer loomed, a heartbeat away, as the formation closed to 10 feet. Karen's defiance was about to meet an immovable force, and the crowd held its breath, cameras ready for the inevitable clash. The air at Buckingham Palace crackled with anticipation. The crowd's collective breath held as the Queen's Guard marched closer, their boots pounding the pavement just 10 feet from Karen Mitchell. As we saw in her defiant stand moments ago, Karen, oblivious to the gravity of her trespass, stood rooted in their path, her phone raised for the perfect selfie. Now the consequences of her arrogance were seconds away. Sergeant David Thompson, a seasoned soldier leading the formation, issued the final command, his voice booming across the courtyard. "Make way for the Queen's Guard!"
Karen glanced up, annoyance flickering across her face, but she didn't budge. Shifting from defiance to disaster, the guards, now a mere 5 feet away, showed no sign of stopping. Karen's logic, that they'd detour for a paying tourist, crumbled under the weight of centuries-old protocol.
This wasn't a performance. It was a sacred duty, and Karen was an obstacle, nothing more. Analyzing her misstep, her refusal to heed warnings from Sophie, Tom, and the royal staffer Emma was not just stubbornness, it was a cultural blind spot. She assumed her American status granted immunity, ignoring the guards' unyielding commitment to tradition. This misjudgment was her undoing. At 3 feet, Karen's confidence wavered, her eyes widening as the formation loomed. "You can't be serious," she stammered, her voice thinning. 2 feet. "You wouldn't dare touch me!" 1 foot. Sergeant Thompson's shoulder made contact, not a shove, but a precise professional nudge. The impact sent Karen stumbling backward, her designer sunglasses flying, her phone crashing to the ground with a sickening crack. She landed unceremoniously on her backside, about 8 feet from where she'd stood, her pristine jeans now smeared with London grit. The guards marched on, their formation unbroken, as if Karen were a mere pebble in their path. The crowd erupted, a chaotic blend of gasps, laughter, and the relentless click of camera phones. Dozens of tourists, some just 15 feet away, captured every second of Karen's humiliation, their videos destined to flood social media. Sophie, mortified, buried her face in her hoodie, while Tom rushed forward, his voice tight with panic. "Karen, are you okay?" Karen, scrambling to her feet, was far from okay. "He pushed me," she screeched, pointing at the retreating guards. Her dignity lay in tatters, her entitlement exposed to a global audience. Examining the fallout, this moment was more than a physical stumble. It was a public unmasking. Karen's belief in her own exceptionality collided with the reality of impartial protocol, and the world was watching. The hashtag #GuardKaren was already trending, with clips spreading like wildfire. As Karen dusted herself off, unaware of the viral storm brewing, the true cost of her actions, humiliation, ridicule, and a lesson in humility, was only beginning to dawn. The dust settled on the Buckingham Palace courtyard, but the storm around Karen Mitchell was just beginning. As we witnessed in her humiliating fall moments ago, Karen's collision with the Queen's Guard, a mere 8 feet from her defiant stand, had left her sprawled on the ground, her pride shattered alongside her cracked phone. Now, as she staggered to her feet, the crowd's reaction surged like a tidal wave, a mix of shock, amusement, and judgment. Tourists, some just 15 feet away, held up their phones, their lenses capturing every grimace, every smudge on Karen's designer jeans. The hashtag #GuardKaren was already igniting social media, a digital firestorm she couldn't yet fathom.
Transitioning from physical to emotional wreckage, Karen's fury erupted. "That thug assaulted me!" she shrieked, jabbing a finger at the retreating guards, now 30 feet away, marching in perfect formation. Her voice, shrill with indignation, only fueled the crowd's amusement. Analyzing her reaction, Karen's outburst stemmed from a refusal to accept fault.
Her entitlement, rooted in the belief that her status as an American tourist trumped all, blinded her to the reality she had violated a sacred protocol, and the guard's response was not personal but procedural. This denial trapped her in a cycle of rage, unable to see the crowd's growing disdain. Tom, his face flushed with second-hand embarrassment, reached her side. "Karen, let's go," he urged, his voice low, desperate to escape the sea of staring eyes. Sophie, meanwhile, shrank further into her hoodie, muttering, "Mom, you're making it worse." But Karen was undeterred, turning on Emma, the royal staffer who'd warned her earlier. "You saw him push me," she demanded, ignoring Emma's calm explanation. "Ma'am, you were told multiple times to stay behind the barrier. The guards follow protocol." Emma's professionalism only stoked Karen's anger, her cries of, "I'm an American citizen," ringing hollow against the crowd's murmurs. Shifting to the crowd's perspective, their reaction was a mirror to Karen's folly. Some tourists, standing 20 feet back, laughed openly, while others whispered, their phones buzzing with freshly posted videos. A British onlooker shook her head, muttering, "No respect for our traditions." This collective judgment underscored a logical truth. Karen's actions weren't just a personal misstep, they were a cultural offense, disrupting a ritual revered for centuries. Her insistence on special treatment clashed with the egalitarian ethos of the palace grounds, where rules applied to all regardless of nationality. As Karen demanded to speak to a supervisor, unaware that her meltdown was going viral, the crowd's filming intensified. A young man with a camera called out, "Got it all on tape, lady." His words hinted at the global stage now watching. Karen's defiance, once her shield, was now her cage, locking her in a moment of infamy that would echo far beyond the 50-foot radius of that courtyard. The courtyard of Buckingham Palace, once a stage for Karen Mitchell's public unraveling, had morphed into a digital arena, its echoes rippling far beyond the 50-foot radius of her humiliation. As we saw in the crowd's merciless filming and Karen's defiant outbursts, her clash with the Queen's Guard had sparked a spectacle. Now, that moment, captured by dozens of phones just 15 feet from her fall, was exploding across the globe. The hashtag #GuardKaren trended worldwide, with videos racking up millions of views on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, each clip a dagger to Karen's crumbling ego. Moving from local scandal to global infamy, the fallout was relentless. Back in their hotel room, a mere 2 miles from the palace, the Mitchells sat in stunned silence. Karen, her sprained wrist throbbing from her fall 8 feet backward, clutched her cracked phone, now a relic of her folly. Sophie, scrolling furiously, broke the quiet. "Mom, you're everywhere," she said, her voice a mix of awe and dread. News sites, from CNN to the BBC, ran headlines like, "American tourist clashes with Queen's Guard." Memes flooded the internet. One captioned, "Queen's Guard 1, Karen 0, with a still of Karen's outraged face mid-sprawl. Analyzing this, the viral spread wasn't just about her actions, it was a cultural indictment. Karen's entitlement, a caricature of the American Karen stereotype, resonated as a cautionary tale, amplified by a world hungry for schadenfreude. Karen's personal life unraveled in tandem. Her workplace, 5,000 miles away in Connecticut, emailed, urging her to lie low as colleagues shared the video. Friends from her bridge club sent texts, their concern thinly veiling gossip. Even her neighbor messaged, "Saw you on the news, you okay?" The logic here is stark. Karen's belief in her own exceptionality had backfired, turning her into a public punchline. Her refusal to heed warnings, rooted in a misguided sense of privilege, didn't just violate protocol, it invited global scrutiny, proving that no one is above accountability in the digital age. Shifting to the practical toll, the family's vacation was in tatters. Reporters hounded their hotel, their calls ringing every 10 minutes. The travel insurance company, citing Karen's knowing violation of posted rules 20 feet from her standoff, refused to cover her medical costs. Sophie, mortified, texted friends, "My mom's a meme, I'm done." Karen, pacing the room, snapped, "This is a nightmare." Her indignation, once a shield, now fueled her isolation, as even strangers on the street, 10 feet away at breakfast, recognized her, some snapping selfies with the infamous Buckingham Karen. As the views climbed to 50 million, Karen faced a reckoning. Her life, once curated for admiration, was now a viral cautionary tale. The world's laughter drowned out her protests, and the weight of her actions pressed harder. Would she double down, or could she find a way to rewrite her story? The answer hung in the air, as heavy as the silence in that hotel room. The viral storm that engulfed Karen Mitchell, as we saw in its relentless spread across social media, had left her stranded in a hotel room 2 miles from Buckingham Palace, her life reduced to a hashtag #GuardKaren. With 50 million views mocking her fall 8 feet from defiance to disgrace, Karen faced a crossroads. Her sprained wrist, denied by insurance for her rule-breaking 20 feet from protocol, was the least of her wounds. The world's laughter, echoing from phones 5,000 miles away, had stripped her bare. Yet in this crucible of humiliation, a spark of change flickered, ignited by an unlikely source, her teenage daughter, Sophie. Transitioning from despair to possibility, Sophie's voice cut through the hotel's stifling silence. "Mom, you can fix this," she said, her phone glowing with precedent. A viral villain turned advocate through apology. Karen, her entitlement shattered by global scorn, hesitated. Admitting fault was alien to her, but the weight of isolation, reporters hounding them 10 feet from their hotel door, co-workers whispering across continents, forced her to listen. Analyzing her shift, this was no mere surrender. It was a logical reckoning. Karen's belief in her own exceptionality had fueled her downfall, but humility, a value revered in American redemption stories, offered a path to reclaim her narrative. Sophie's suggestion wasn't just practical, it was a cultural lifeline, tapping into the power of public contrition. Guided by Sophie, Karen crafted a video, filmed in their room's dim light. "I was wrong," she admitted, her voice trembling, "for disrespecting British traditions." She pledged a donation to a veterans charity, a nod to the Guard's service. Posted on Sophie's TikTok, the video soared to 20 million views, its sincerity disarming critics. Emboldened, Karen planned a return to the palace, a gesture to seal her redemption. 3 days later, she stood 25 feet behind the barrier, her designer sunglasses gone, her posture humble. Emma, the staffer who'd warned her, stood nearby, her presence a bridge between past and present. As the guards approached, 15 feet away, led by Sergeant Thompson, the crowd hushed, phones poised for drama. But Karen, transformed, stepped back and bowed, a fleeting, respectful gesture that spoke volumes. Thompson's eyes, some swore, flickered in recognition, but the guards marched on, as protocol demanded. The crowd erupted in applause, a British voice calling, "Good on you!" Analyzing this, Karen's act was a masterstroke of accountability. By publicly embracing humility, she subverted the Karen stereotype, proving change was possible, a narrative Americans cherish in stories of second chances. Tears welled as Karen whispered, "I was wrong about everything." Sophie, filming, beamed with rare pride. The video of her bow posted online shifted the narrative, comments flooding with praise. Karen's redemption, born from 50 feet of infamy, wasn't just personal. It was a lesson in humility, poised to inspire beyond the palace gates. Could she sustain this change? The world, now watching with hope, waited. The echoes of applause at Buckingham Palace, where Karen Mitchell's humble bow 25 feet from the barrier had stunned onlookers, marked a turning point. As we saw in her courageous act of redemption, Karen had transformed from the infamous #GuardKaren, vilified by 50 million views for her defiance 8 feet from protocol, into a symbol of accountability. Now, as she stood with Tom and Sophie, the weight of her journey settled over the courtyard, a mere 2 miles from their hotel prison. The viral storm had calmed, replaced by a new narrative, one that promised not just closure, but a profound lesson for all. Shifting from public redemption to personal rebirth, Karen's apology video, viewed 20 million times, had rewritten her story. Comments once filled with laughing emojis now brimmed with praise. Respect for owning your mistake. Tourists, some 15 feet away during her bow, approached not to mock but to commend, one British woman saying, "You've shown real courage, dear." Analyzing this outcome, Karen's arc embodies a core American value, the power of second chances. Her initial entitlement, a cultural caricature, had fueled her downfall, but her willingness to confront her flaws tapped into a universal truth. Humility can rebuild what pride destroys. This wasn't just a personal victory. It was a logical triumph of accountability over arrogance, resonating in a digital age quick to judge, but slow to forgive. Karen's transformation rippled beyond the palace. Back home, 5,000 miles away, her workplace, once wary of her infamy, praised her growth. Friends, no longer whispering gossip, sent heartfelt messages. Even Sophie, once mortified, looked at her mother with newfound respect, her video of the bow gaining traction as a beacon of hope. Logically, this shift illustrates the internet's dual nature. It amplifies mistakes, but also rewards redemption when genuine. Karen's donation to a veterans charity, announced 10 feet from her hotel's phone, honored the guard's duty, further cementing her sincerity. Reflecting on the broader lesson, Karen's journey teaches that cultural respect and humility are not weaknesses, but strengths. Her initial clash, sparked 20 feet from a sacred ritual, exposed the dangers of entitlement, a lesson Americans often grapple with in global contexts. By listening to Emma's guidance and Sophie's wisdom, Karen modeled growth, proving that even a Karen can evolve. As she walked through St. James's Park, 50 feet from the palace, a tourist asked for a photo, not for ridicule but admiration. "I don't care about viral fame anymore," Karen said, her voice steady. "I care about doing right." Could this change endure? As the Mitchells planned their final London day, Karen's smile, warm and unforced, suggested it might. Her fall, once a global joke, had become her greatest teacher, a story of redemption that would inspire far beyond the 100-foot shadow of Buckingham's gates. Wow, what a journey Karen took, from a viral mishap to a heartfelt redemption. We're dying to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below. What did you think of her transformation? Have you ever witnessed a moment like this, maybe 20 feet from a cultural tradition? And tell us, where are you watching from? Your city, your couch, or halfway across the globe? We want to know. Your stories make this channel a community, so let's keep the conversation going. If Karen's tale moved you, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Tomorrow, we've got another epic story lined up, packed with twists you won't see coming. Don't miss it. Share your take on Karen's lesson. Can humility really change the narrative? Or maybe you've got a redemption story of your own. Every comment sparks new connections, so join the thousands already chiming in. Let's make this a space where we learn, laugh, and grow together. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the comments and back here tomorrow for more unforgettable tales.